Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Taryn Branson. I am an attorney out of Baton Rouge, and I previously ran for office in 2019, so it is absolutely fabulous to be on the other side of the hot seat today, and I get to be the moderator. Before we begin, I'd like to just poll the audience really quickly. Is there anyone in the audience from District 62? Okay. And is there anyone in the audience from District 63? Does anyone not know what district they're in? Okay, we have one person. We will certainly help you at the end of the show, and we can get you connected and help you find out what district you're in. So for our candidates, we'll get started with some introductions. Our candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and TC right here will be our timekeeper. So if you see her waving her hand, that means your time is up. And first, we'll get started with Mr. Roy Adams.
Thank you. Hi, Hello. Yes. Hi, I'm State Rep Roy Darrell Adams, District 62. It's been redrawn. Now I have East Feliciana, Zachary, Baker, Brownsville, and go into Zion City. I'm here to represent each and every one of you. You mean more to me than you know. I want to be your representative. I'm here to work for you. I want to make you know I am proud of you. I want you to be able to reach me, talk to me, tell me what you need, because I need to know what you need. My wife, Tanya Adams, I've been married to her for 43 years. We have 4 kids, live in Jackson, Louisiana, and I'm proud of my wife. I've done some things in my past, but she stayed with me, so thank you. And I'm just humble to be here in front of you to tell you what I'm going to do for you and what I can do for you. I want you to know I'm going to work for you. I'm not going to be one that sits on the side and waits for somebody else to pull the trigger. I'm ready to pull the trigger, and let's get it done. Let's work together, show people what we can do. Be proud of District 62. We need grocery stores in our deserts. We got to bring fresh produce to our people. We got to be there for our people. We did the homeless council. We got houses. We have money. Let's get the people in the houses and let them be proud of the houses. Let them be proud of where they live and let them fix it up. Broken window, the state has money. They come in there, winterize your house. They can make your house comfortable. And thank you. Roy Adams, District 62, number 53.
Okay, thank you, Representative Adams. Next, we have Daniel Bengale. Daniel, I hope I got your name right.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Bangel. I am a proud graduate of Southern University, undergrad, and Southern University Law Center, so I feel right at home. I'm also a proud member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. I am Daniel Bangel, candidate for State Representative District 62, number 54 on your ballot. Listen, I start off with humble beginnings. I understand how it is to grow up in poverty. Grew up with a single parent mom who taught me that education was going to get me out of poverty. So therefore, she pushed me to make sure I dealt with education. And since then, I've made her proud by graduating a few times and also opened up a small business here in East Baton Rouge Parish. I've worked in the political spectrum for a number of years. I've gotten a lot of people elected with my political consulting firm. I also have a small business where I deal with pretrial services. I understand that District 62 need a lot of work because we're facing an issue of poverty. People that live in our area is in poverty. In order to deal with poverty, we have to deal with it holistically. We can't just focus on education. We have to focus on infrastructure. We have to focus on economic development. We have to focus on access to health care. We have to focus on all these different things, making sure our children or the generation, make sure that we equip them with the basic skills to grow up and be able to be successful. And one of our issues is that they need to, oh, thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bengale. And next we have Darius Landis.
Yes, ma'am. I look forward to using all this time because I talk fast. But no, first of all, thank y'all for having me here this evening. I'm Darius Landis. I proudly serve as your East Baton Rouge Parish School Board President. I'm the youngest person to ever be elected to the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, and I'm also the youngest person to ever be selected to be the president. In that time, we didn't make any uncandied promises. We went to work from day one 3 years ago, they said that they froze, or 5 years ago rather, we froze teacher pay completely. This year we moved $22 million to ensure that not only can we increase the pay for teachers, but we did the same thing for our support workers, such as our janitors, our cafeteria workers, and all of our support staff. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to tell you the reason why you should vote for me for state representative for District 62. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're tired of hearing the same old rhetoric, if you really want a fighter, you look no other than right here in front of you. I have the pedigree. I'm a proud graduate of Southern University, undergrad, Southern University grad school, as well as Southern University Law Center, where I was also the SBA president. I served them proudly. What I want to do for you is bring a new voice, something you have never seen before. And if that means that you have to challenge other people in order to get things accomplished for District 62, that's exactly what I do. When I go throughout the Felicianas and I see that nothing has happened, not even a town hall meeting to understand what are the needs and concerns of the people that are there, that's a problem for me. And because the same things are happening right here inside of our back door. I want to be able to change that. But not just change that, I want to be able to support policies that make sense for the people across this state. I see a lot of women inside of this room. If you look at my platform, I am pushing to create legislation and support legislation that supports women's rights to choose. Because no woman should have to deal with the fact that someone has done something to their body against their will, and you have to be forced to go along with it. The same thing for juveniles. In this last session, they tried to pass a measure or a piece of legislation or policy that would
Mr.
have.
Landis,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
time.
I'm Darius Landis, with 55 on your ballot. I look forward to talking to y'all tonight.
Thank you so much. Okay, so as we move through the questions, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions. All questions are posed to each of the candidates. And at the end of this session, there will be a chance for audience members to pose questions. Audience members, we ask that you keep your questions to 30 seconds, no more than a minute. And please make sure that they are open to all the candidates and no candidate specifically. So the first question is, what is the role of the district representative? In your opinion, what is the role? Whoever wants to start.
Hi, the role of the district rep is to represent you, to do what you need, to represent the women. We opened a women's health unit this time, committee. Senator Regina Barra passed the bill because women's health was lost. Y'all been overlooked for so many years. We opened that to help the women of our district. And children, to educate our kids, to get them in school and get them going. Education, we get them educated, we can change poverty. We can have more productive citizens in our group. To understand the needs of the water, gas, we got to do the infrastructure for the communities. Broadband, we got to be there to get broadband in each and every house. The kids have to have it to be able to study. We have to be the ones to get, the money's there. We just got to push it forward and get it to you. We got to do, no, go ahead. we got to be the ones to get it. So I'm there, Roy Adams. I'm wanting to represent you, and I want you to know I'm there for you. God is number one, and I'll be right there behind him to help each and every one.
Thank you, Representative Adams.
Thank you. The role of a representative is to make sure that there's advocacy for your particular district in the legislature. There's 105 state representatives, 39 which are Democrats, and of course there's a supermajority in the legislature with Republicans. So we have to make sure that we're able to work across the aisle, make sure we develop relationships so that the best interests of our community needs are being met. Obviously, it's no more of a bipartisan. There is a more sense of a partisanship that most representatives take, but I want to make sure that I'm open-minded to understanding the needs of not only my district, but the state of Louisiana. Even though there's some issues that I may vote for that I may not particularly deal with 62, I'm still voting for the best interest of our community, of our state. And of course, there is a lot of issues within our state that need to be dealt with. Also, our state representatives need to have an inventory of what the community needs and make sure that those needs are heard and advocate for those needs and be an intercessor between municipalities as well as state government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bengel. Mr. Landis.
Yes, ma'am. There's no one way to describe what the role of a state representative is, because you're so many different things. You have to be a bridge builder. You have to be a relationship builder. You have to be someone who can go out and reach people, touch people where they are. You have to be someone, even if they tell you to come to their house, you have to come to where they are and get a true scope and understanding of what those people's needs are. You also have to be somebody who understands finance, because you have to be able to strum through the state's budget to understand where money is and where you have to make cuts. If you don't understand these processes, you will fall to the wayside. And that's what we have seen in several districts all across East Baton Rouge Parish. This is the reason why, if you ask me why I'm running, this is the reason why I'm running, because I understand these processes. I understand the needs of people. I understand how you build relationships, and I don't mind going out at 8 o'clock at night at Miss Frida's house off of, what is that? I forgot the name of the road. Pride Port Hudson Road. And having dinner with her and having conversations with her as we dialogue about what are the things that keep her up at night. And we talk about public safety. When we talk about roads, these are the types of things you have to understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. And our next question is, how will you ensure that the voice of your constituents remains relevant if elected? And we'll go out of order. We'll start with Mr. Landis.
Coming to the people. What I can tell you is this: the people of District 62, they would have never supported someone who would have voted against the second minority district, a congressional district coming to the state of Louisiana. But that's what happened. You have to be someone who understands, again, the needs of the people. You have to be someone who is willing to work across the aisles. You have to be someone that also understands the politics of what's happening inside of the legislature, because they have a supermajority on both the House and the Senate side. So you have to know how to maneuver, and you have to know how to operate and effectively do things on behalf of your constituency.
Thank you. Mr. Bengal?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. How will you ensure that the voice of your constituents remains relevant if elected?
Well, the voice of my constituents remain relevant because that's the whole reason I came into office as a public servant. So the moment you forget about the people that put you in office is when you lose your identity and you start doing things for yourself. So that's one thing I probably would never forget, is the voice of the people and making sure we stay connected. Sometimes we get lost in the legislature, forget about the people who put us in there, and we forget about the needs of the people. So I want to make sure that I keep an office in both particular parishes, East Feliciana and East Baton Rouge Parish, where I'm more accessible, making sure we have town hall meetings to make sure that their needs are and issues are concerned, making sure I'm connected with the local churches, to make sure I'm connected to local community organizations, to make sure that I'm always in the area where their community can speak to me and let me know their needs, to make sure I advocate on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bengal. Representative Adams?
Yes. First off, to listen to you people. Be there when they need you. They'll call you. Go see them. Let's get up and go see them. I run a paper route. 1 o'clock in the morning, they call me. I talk to them. We get on the phone and we talk. I go see them. Far as voting for the minority district, I voted against it. I voted for it the first time. Veto section, I voted against it only because Representative Glover brought 4 bills to the House on the floor that day, could not get them passed. I cut a deal for my district. I got some money. I told them they ought to lock us all up. They should have marched us out to the state capitol in handcuffs, put us on a bus, and took us to the jailhouse. That's where we deserved to go that day, because we didn't do what the judge said. So we should have been prisoners. We should have been taken to the jailhouse. And I was willing to go. I wish they would have took us.
Thank you, Representative Adams. Okay, so now we will move into the heart of some specific areas, the first of which is education. So for some context, there are a growing number of states and advocates for state-funded education savings accounts. These accounts will give students education opportunities outside of public schools. Governor Edwards has vetoed these bills in the past, citing that it would cripple our already underfunded public school system even further. So the question is, would you support a bill for school choice? Why or why not? And we'll start with Mr. Bengal.
I absolutely agree with the governor in terms of the the way the structure is designed. I do agree that there should be funding for education, especially from poverty communities, give them access to education where it's affordable. So I would like to revisit that particular structure and design it where it's cost saving to the state of Louisiana as well as beneficial to those people that are living in poverty. And I think that's where it started at, the way it was previously structured. I think, again, as I said all the time, education is the foundation of everything. And I say it everywhere I go because failing education is what gives us high incarceration. And so if we deal with education specifically in District 62, we can stop the perpetuation of poverty. And again, how we do that is by making sure kids who graduate high school have education that they can afford. As of right now, there's cuts to education because that's the only dedicated tax that we have in legislature that's not dedicated, which means they could cut to education and healthcare anytime we have a shortfall.
Thank you, Mr. Bengel.
Oh, thank you.
Next, Mr. Landis. And again, the question is, would you support a bill for school choice? Why or why not?
No, I wouldn't. This is the reason why, because you're talking about education savings accounts. That's basically a code word for voucher programs. State voucher programs have proven they do not work, and what you do is you allow wealthy families to pull money from out of programs that less than the wealthy families depend on a regular basis. When you talk about education, education is more of a municipality policy, or it's municipalities that have to push that. And I say this as the president again of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. I can go to my state representative, I can go to my state senator, and I can ask for dollars. That doesn't help the problems that you see existing on the locale level or on the municipality level in terms of education. What we have to do is we have to come together as a caucus, and we have to get a true agenda as to how we go about fixing a lot of the concerns and problems that happen around our state, especially as it regards black and brown kids.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. And again, Mr. Representative Adams, the question is, would you support a bill for school choice? Why or why not?
Bill for school choice, I'm 50-50 either way. I live in Jackson, Louisiana. East Feliciana has no tax base. We have state facilities in it, and our students are hurting in East Feliciana. We're a D school. I have West Feliciana right next door. They're an A. They're the #1 school in the state, but they have a tax base. So we have to fix the tax base for East Feliciana throughout the state. We have to get our teachers. Our teachers in East Feliciana make $30,000 a year. West Feliciana make $55,000 a year. So we got, and there's no way East Feliciana can meet that goal. So we have to do something to balance the funding for the schools. Each school doesn't get the same amount of money, so we have to do something. We have to come together. 105 of us have to come together and put a program in that's going to benefit all the schools throughout the state of Louisiana. Zachary has the #2 school in the state, but they have a great tax base. So why penalize our kids? Let's get the tax base right in the state to help our kids. Education only gets X amount of dollars. So we have to be the ones to...
Thank you, Representative Adams. So for our next set of questions, we're moving into the topic of law enforcement. A growing number of people have called for financial resources to be shifted away from law enforcement and reallocated to education, healthcare, and other social issues. The question is, would you support a bill reallocating funds away from law enforcement to other areas of community interest? I'll let you all decide who wants to go first.
Absolutely not. I think that I'm not going to defund police department. The bottom line is that when you get into an emergency, you're going to call the police. Now, again, I believe there should be bills. I believe there should be appropriations that go to education. Again, as I said before, education, healthcare is the only tax that's not dedicated in terms of where it's a priority, where in the legislature. I want to make sure that education and healthcare is top priority. When monies come through the state, it needs to be focused on education and healthcare. We should not be trying to cut areas that we need. First of all, in District 62, it takes an hour and a half for an officer to get to Wilson and to Norwood. Why would I cut more money? So they take them 4 hours to get there. So again, you have to take an inventory of the area that you're trying to represent and realize what's more beneficial for them to be able to cut. Law enforcement, to be honest with you, due to a lot of cuts, a lot of them are not National Post certified, due to the, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bengel.
Say it again.
Representative Adams. The question again is, Would you support a bill reallocating funds away from law enforcement to other areas of community interest?
No, I wouldn't support it. Law enforcement, I would not be a cop, but I respect the cops. I would not even want to be a cop. But our cops, we need them. They have to be there. They have a job. We need them each and every day. No, I wouldn't take any money away from them. But I think we could take money away from fighting marijuana. Marijuana is going to be legal, like it or not. Take that money, let's put that in education. Move the money out of policing marijuana and put it in education. Move it out of the way. Let's get it. It's millions of dollars we spend every year fighting marijuana. So let's move it. Let's get it out of the system. Move it over. We have medical marijuana now, and we hadn't slowed down marijuana. People smoking it, whatever. I own a store. We sell a ton of little cigars. They tell me they use them for marijuana. I don't know. But let's move that part of the money out of the law enforcement because, it's just there. They're not stopping it. So let's move it over, keep our police where they are, and let's help each other.
Mr. Lannis?
Yes, ma'am. No, absolutely not. The idea should never be, especially in the state of Louisiana where police officers make around the same thing or actually less than teachers. The fact of the matter is police officers actually do need more money, but they also need more training. They also need more skills as they go into those jobs and into those roles. I do agree with Representative Adams in saying that there are other allocations of funding that we can come up with, or more unique or creative ways to come up with funding to help to support a lot of the programs that we're talking about. The only thing I would push and say is don't just let it be rhetoric. Don't just talk about it because it's a feel-good thing to talk about inside of this room full of black folks. Put the bill up, create the legislation, and let's push it forward. And even if it doesn't go through, let the people see that you're fighting on their behalf and you're trying to move legislation that creates more opportunities for the people that live across this city. But if we're just simply going to talk about it, you're going to keep getting the same thing that you always got. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is around law enforcement. How do you propose we hold law enforcement accountable in a swift and transparent way? I'll start with Mr. Lannis. How do you propose we hold law enforcement accountable in a swift and transparent way?
I think a lot of what we're talking about starts at the municipality level. I think that a lot of these cities, a lot of these towns, they need a public safety commissioner. To simply think that a police chief or a sheriff, especially a sheriff who has free range to do whatever he wants to throughout a parish, is going to fix a lot of your crime problems, is not going to happen. You can't just throw money at it. As I said before, yes, police officers need more money in terms of salary, but if you're telling me you're going out and buying more equipment, you're buying all of these things that have shown and proven, they do not fix the problem. In fact, they exacerbate the problem. Louisiana is the most incarcerated state in the entire world, not in the country, but in the entire world. And so it has shown, not just in Baton Rouge, not just in Louisiana, but across our entire country. Adding more money to the problem does not help if you do not have a fine-tooth plan to understand how you're going to go about making effective plans to make the lives of the people where you live, where they stay, more effective and more safe. If we're not having those discussions, then we're moving in the wrong direction. And clearly, our state has shown that we have continued to move it in a backwards direction rather than going forward.
How do you propose we hold law enforcement accountable in a swift and transparent way?
Law enforcement should be held accountable. We should have more cameras on our officers. And when they come in, if they did something, review that camera. Review it within 24 hours, and let's have a hearing. Don't wait 2 weeks, a month to put the video out there. You got the video, let's do it. You hire somebody in the office that's going to review those films every day they come in. The cars have a camera in them that shows everything. Review them, let's do it. Hold them accountable. It's education, put our cops in more education, more everything. Community involvement, let our community be more involved. If you see something, say something. Don't wait and say, well, I thought I saw. No, let's say it. Get up there and tell them what you saw. And the video is going to hold you back. It's going to tell you what you saw and what you didn't see. We have more people in the prison system than any other state. It's there. You just said, and we need to let them get them out. We can't just lock everybody up. We can't lock everybody up and think that's going to solve the problem, because it hadn't solved the problem. We still have them in prison.
Thank you, Representative Adams.
In order to be able to hold our officers more accountable, first of all, we have these systems already in place. It's the problem. The problem is the people we are appointing to these boards. The people we are appointing to these boards are the ones that are or the issue with holding officers accountable at a swifter pace, because there are rules for certain people and there are rules for others. And so that's the first step, making sure we have qualified, making sure we have people who are impartial, making sure they look at the facts and make sure they make decisions based on the facts. Secondly, it does come down to making sure that we have proper training on the front end. There's not a job I can start working without being properly trained before I start working. I should not be training somebody after they've been on the job for 6 years. They should be having this proper training. They should have annual continuing training as laws are enforced. A lot of lawmakers have improved laws, and police officers still don't even have any idea what the new laws are. So that's another part. It's so much. This is such a big issue where you can't talk about it in 30 seconds, but you get the point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bangel. So for context, our next question is the topic of gun violence. Gun violence was on the decline nationally and locally before COVID-19. Now we have seen years of significant uptick in violent crime in Baton Rouge. So the question is, what factors do you think uniquely shape the state of gun violence in our city? So again, the question is, what factors do you think uniquely shape the state of gun violence in our city?
One of the factors that shape gun violence is poverty. If you look at statistically, most areas that are in poverty statistically have higher crime rates. And again, we have to focus on education. Again, a lot of these kids who are not educated, they tend to drop out of college or drop out of high school. And typically when you drop out of high school, you result into the crime area. So we have to systematically start dealing with our children and not allow the state to continue to change the education curriculum and not start it from the beginning and just implement it all at once where these kids don't even have the basic skills to read. And so we want to first start off there. And finally, give these kids something to do. We have areas of in our community where their kids have nothing to do. They don't have anywhere to play basketball, don't have anywhere to do any recreational activities. And we continue to go to these same areas and wonder why they're getting into trouble. Thank y'all so much.
Go ahead. What factors do you think uniquely shape the state of gun violence in our city?
Lack of education. When I was growing up, when you picked up a gun, you knew it would kill. It would kill an animal. Use them to go hunting. You knew it would kill. So when you picked a gun up, you were out to kill. We don't need education. We have to train our young youth. And a gun is not a way to solve a problem. It's another problem that's going to happen. One family loses a kid, the other family loses a son to prison. No, we don't need that. We have to come together. It takes a village to raise a family now. So we need to be a village and everybody reach in and help. Talk to them. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your kids. I mean, how many people actually speak to their neighbor once a day, once a week? You know, and let them know what's going on in your neighborhood, what's going on in your life. Our kids are lots going on in their life that we don't know about. School pressure. It's all kind of things. They break up with their girlfriend. It's so much going on that we don't take time out to just understand them. Let them be there, comfort them, bring them to church.
Thank you, Representative Adams. Mr. Lannis?
Gun access is the #1 reason for gun violence happen, not just in cities like Baton Rouge, but all across our nation. As it stands right now, America is the most armed nation in the entire world. We, on a list of top 25 countries, we have more guns or more access to guns than the other 24 countries combined. That's a problem. In fact, it has even been said that if you take every gun in America and you stack it, and you have enough guns to go to the moon, back to the earth, and to the moon again 8 times over. It's too many guns on our streets. Literally, just last year, I was at homecoming, walking down the street on Scenic Highway. Every single interaction that I saw, somebody had a holster or a gun sticking out of their side. And there was kids as young as 16 years old with handguns, which clearly tells us that there are too many guns available on our streets. Until we get that problem understood and under control, you're going to continue to see everything that we see across the board, not just here in Louisiana and Baton Rouge, but all across our nation.
Thank you, Mr. Lannis. For context, we're now moving to the topic of climate crisis and the environment. Louisiana, like the rest of the world, just experienced the hottest July and August on record. Sea levels are actively rising, and it is becoming harder to live in climate-vulnerable communities like in Southeast Louisiana. Keeping in mind the governor's creation of the Climate Initiatives Task Force and federal environmental packages that have funding for solar energy, energy efficiency, and more. So the question is, what would be a first step the legislature could take that you would support in addressing climate crisis? Again, the question is, what would be a first step the legislature could take that you would support in addressing the climate crisis? So who'd like to go first?
I'll take it
because
on
it's
first.
been hot.
I would say not just supporting the first state's green bill, but actually creating the legislation to create a new green bill that puts safe holds on not just how do we fix the problem in terms of what's happening in terms of the environmental control, but also what's happening in terms of erosion. Right now, the city of New Orleans in the next 50 years are going to be underwater. What does that mean for our state? Because they bring in so many tourism dollars. When you look at right here on our Scotts Bluff in the back of Southern University, we have erosion problems that we're dealing with. When you go down Cancer Alley right here, when we literally give too many prescriptive situations for people like Exxon, and we do very little to get anything in return. That's how you begin to fix the problem. The people who are causing the problem need to be the ones that are putting the dollars up to help our state to come up with it. So I also think that we need a state trust fund from the same companies that are spewing a lot of the waste and pollution that we see happening across our state.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. Representative Adams. Again, the question is, what would be a first step the legislature could take that you would support in addressing the climate crisis?
First off would be Exxon, Dow Chemical, all our chemical plants up and down the Mississippi River. They are polluting our area, so let's make them pay for it. Charge them a penny on the dollar, a penny on a gallon of gas. You'd be surprised how much gas how many pennies that adds up. But anyway, we have to make them pay a price. Solar panels on our house. Everybody should have a solar panel. Let's get them and get them out there. Lawnmowers, they say pollute more than anything. So let's get the electric lawnmowers. I remember the old timey lawnmowers you push, it had the rotary thing. And what's wrong with it? Let's get them out there and let them cut it. I remember cutting the grass with a hoe, not a weed eater. So we got out there with a weed eater, a hoe, and we cut the grass along the fence row. What's wrong with it? Nothing's wrong with it. We just got lazy. We don't do what we should do. But we have to be more responsible. We have to hold our big companies more responsible than they hold. You know, they pollute us and we pay the price.
Thank you, Representative Adams. Mr. Bengal.
There's already an environment control bill that was presented to the legislature that deals with the economy and dealing with that. It's just, again, there's only 39 Democrats. So that tell you why it hadn't gotten passed. Also, we have a lot of individuals, especially in this area, that are landowners. We need to make sure that these particular landowners be able to have opportunities where they can be able to develop these solar windmills. We have land all the way from the coast of from Texas border all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico of land where we can develop solar mills, and we also have solar panels that we have been adopted on houses to make sure we control the environment. Cancer Alley has been Cancer Alley for the last 50 years. You know, there's safety measures in place now where it prevents the pollution that it once did at one point. Now we need to focus on environmental control and forest air pollutants, and the way we deal with that is making sure that we get more people with solar panels and making sure those people that are in the forest industry who have land, making sure that we incentivize them to get more solar windmills so they can be able to, that opens up more business in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bengal. Next, we are moving into, I believe, audience questions at this time. So if there are any audience members who have any questions for the candidates, there's a microphone up here, and we ask that you please limit your question to no more than 1 minute. Yes.
Where is Cancer Alley?
It's the Mississippi River all the way down to New Orleans, and it starts in Baton Rouge and goes down to New Orleans, and up in above Norwood, Louisiana, they dumped it in Woodville, Centerville, Mississippi, and that's coming down.
Okay. Did any other candidates want to add to that? Okay. Any other audience members with a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I walk out of Florida. My question is this. We see I live in an area where it's called Cancer Ave. I work for DEQ. I know the emission problem. We are not challenging DEQ to enforce the emission problem that's being released right in our black community. You don't see a plant going down on Broadway. They all come up near the Alton, Port Hudson, Beechwood, Baker area. And we're suffering from that. And we got representatives who don't even touch it as far as trying to make them regulate that emission. The other thing of it is, we got a problem with giving these plants this cut on how many people they hire, particular minorities. They don't hire minorities. What they do, they hire contractors and let the contractor hire minorities. Within 3 months, the contractors are laid off, every one of them off. The break that they get should be that you hire employees permanently. That's the problem. We got these politicians who you don't see them. And I'm sick of it. You don't see them until the time for election. They do nothing. Go look at some of them neighborhoods. Go past, I know I'm running over time. Go past Carolina Highway and look and see how the community looking on the other side of the town. But come back to Baker, Schuylerville, Alton, Port Hudson, and you'll see what's going on, how bad those communities look. We got all this property out there, and I'm going to stop. We got all this property out there. Older people that died and left. You know what? You know who's buying up that property now? The other people buying it. And we're not doing anything with it, and these politicians see it, you call them, they don't even answer. They don't even answer. And I'm sick of it.
Thank you for that. And that raises such good issues. Number one, with DEQ, they have the information, the reports, and they're not using that effectively to guide the plants. And then from that, the disparities that we see in communities. So are there any candidates who'd like to address those issues?
I think this comes back to what we were talking about earlier. Again, if you haven't had something as simple as a town hall meeting, that is putting out a flyer telling people in the community that you serve that we're going to have a meeting to discuss what's happening with DEQ. If that's not happening, sir, that's the basic bare essentials. If District 62 hasn't had that, when is it going to begin? You say that you don't see your politicians. I know you don't see them. You know why? Because I don't see them. What I will ask you is this, because I can only go about what I can say what I've done. Come to my district. Come to District 2 and see what we have been able to do over the course of the last 5 years. The people said it couldn't be done. We brought in $65+ million in new infrastructure alone. Come see the new Glen Oaks High School. Go see the new Forest Heights Elementary. Go see the new Brownsfield Elementary and see what it's doing inside of those communities. You see, when a school falls apart and is dilapidated, it doesn't just hurt the students and the people inside of it, it hurts the people that live around it, because guess what? It lowers your property value. We've lifted those property values back up because we understand the needs of the concerns, not just of the residents, but also of the homeowners. So I say to you, elect me and I guarantee you I'll give you exactly what you need, and I'm coming to your house.
Thank you, Mr. Lannis. Representative Adams?
Yes, thank you. First off, the fines, we fined Exxon $30 million for polluting the air. That doesn't hurt Exxon. They don't mind paying that, so we got to reach in and get them a little deeper. We got to make them feel the itch. Make them want to change. You got to make them want to change. Me, I have 6 town halls in my district before we changed it. I go to one town hall a month. I'm there. I go to them and I go to churches. I go to every church event I can. I go to the high schools. I'm seen. I'm at my store 7 days a week. I'm there. People come in and I'm there. So I'm seeable, gettable. I'm doable. So you just let me know, and I'll be at your house. All you got to do is call me. I'm coming. You don't have to call me. I'll show up, and you'll say, what are you doing here? But I'm coming, and I want you to see me. The only way you're going to know me is to see me, to know me, talk to me. We're going to know each other. You're going to look at me and say, you're not telling me, but I'm going to be telling you the truth. I'm coming. So I want you to know who I am, and what I'm thinking.
Thank you, Representative Adams. Mr. Bengal?
First off, the reason why you see a lot of these issues in our community is because the legislature has not prioritized putting it anywhere else. And the reason why it continues to happen is Exxon hadn't paid sales taxes probably over 50 years. And so the reason why they don't pay the sales tax because they promised us that they're going to give employ jobs in the same community that the plant is in, which is not the case, which is not the truth. And we don't have enough legislatures to make this a priority issue where they have to enforce not doing the things that they're doing to pollute our bodies. They had an issue in Allison where there was the same issue with the landfill. You can't put a landfill in the other part of town. They come to our towns because they don't feel as though we're educated, they don't feel as though we're organized, and they don't feel as though we know enough to say no to it. So they just do it, and no one says anything. But again, that's the reason why we have to elect educated people to understand that this is the problem and make sure it's properly read and there's a consequence for doing it. Exxon need to pay their share of property tax. First of all, sorry.
Okay, that concludes our time for candidates for District 62. Let's give them a hand, please. Again, who is a part of District 62? 3? Yes, thank you. Okay, so we'll do like last time, give each candidate about 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Representative Carpenter.
Good. Can you hear me? Is this better? Yeah, I can hear. Good evening. I am the state representative of this district of which you're sitting in, District 63, at Southern University, and welcome. And so I'm delighted that you're here. This is my district. Just look around Southern University's campus to begin with as part of what I've done over the course of my years of service. I am running for my 3rd and final term, and as we get further along in this forum, you will find out more of what I have to say about it, but my record speaks for itself, and I've been very productive in my term in the legislature. This is my 3rd term, and so we have 4-year terms, 3 each, and so this is my final term for it, and I am actually looking forward to continuing my service.
Thank you, Representative Carpenter.
Same thing. Huh?
Okay, up next we have Christopher Lemoyne.
Thank you very much for that introduction. It's an honor and a privilege to be with everyone tonight. I am a business owner, entrepreneur, philanthropist, technology leader. I'm from Brownsfield, attended Brownsfield Elementary, Scotlandville Magnet High, and I'm currently a resident of Zachary. The reason I want this position, and I'm asking for your vote, is I'm tired of Louisiana being last. I think we've got a ton of opportunity for growth, a ton of opportunity to be better. It's going to need newer ways of thinking, maybe a younger generation to bring those ideas in. The gentleman earlier asked about how we can get in touch with our politicians. With today's technology, a phone call, an email, text message, I think this person in this office will be able to be accessible 24 hours a day. Everybody's got their cell phones with them now, so we're going to be able to make sure we can communicate with you and address your needs. Something very quality about myself is that I'm a very good listener. I don't have the answers for every problem that we face, but I'm very interested to see what the issues are. I'm very calm under pressure and can work well in tense situations. I know we can get solutions to the problems that we have, and we can work together to do this. So thank you very much. I look forward to all the questions tonight.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Chawna Banks.
Thank you all. I'm Chawna Banks. I am a resident of East Baton Rouge Parish in the metropolis of Scotlandville. I'm a 3-generation Scotlandville native. Also reared my one and only son here in this community. To say that I am Southern University born and bred would be an understatement, in that my formative years were here at Southern University Laboratory School, graduated from Southern University with both an undergraduate and a graduate degree. And that's part of my legacy and family legacy on both sides, including my son. I serve on the Metro Council for East Baton Rouge District 2. About 70% of the residents that I was hoped to serve in District 63, I already serve on the Metro Council. If there was any time that I was more concerned about young people leaving our community, it hit home for me when my son and daughter-in-law left last October to Austin, Texas. So I'm more dedicated than ever to keep our kids home.
Thank you, Ms. Banks. And so much of the questions will be just like for our last panelist. And so we'll move first into the topic of education. There are a growing number of states and advocates for state-funded education savings accounts. These accounts would give students education opportunities outside of public school. Governor Edwards has vetoed these bills in the past, citing that it would cripple our already underfunded public school system even further. The question is, would you support a bill for school choice? Why or why not? Representative Carper, you can go
With
first.
me?
Sure.
Yeah. I do not support school choice. I am a product of the public school system, having earned my high school degree from the Capital High School back in the day, 2 degrees from Southern University, and a doctorate from Kansas State University. I come through the public school system. I am the oldest of 7, and 5 of us are public school graduates. My parents were principals in the East Baton Rouge Parish public school system. So I am firmly committed to public education. I feel that public dollars should go to take care of public school children. That is a part of the problem of the educational system with our school kids now, because their ability to read
Thank
is...
you, Representative Carpenter.
I'm sorry.
You can finish your thought.
Time up. All right.
Next, Mr. Lemoyne, the question is, would you support a bill for school choice? Why or why not?
So school choice. I think it was important that our school board member explained that earlier. It's important to then, I think when you put a simple definition on it, it's no. The charter schools that we've learned, the money doesn't stay within the community. It goes up to other states where the companies are owned. We've got fantastic schools here. Zachary's Community School District is #2 in the state recently. They held #1 forever. Baker can apply that same blueprint and do the same thing. The school system here in Scotlandville would probably take advantage of the same thing. The biggest difference that Zachary has is a higher tax base, but tax dollars to me aren't the answer. On one hand, I would like parents to have the option to send their children where they wish, but then we also know that sending your children to a community school district is probably the most important thing that they need to do. So let's keep the dollars local and not going out of state to the charter schools.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. Ms. Banks? Again, the question is, would you support a bill for school choice? Why or why not?
I would not support a bill for school choice. I am a career employee of East Baton Rouge Parish School System, and I have firsthand insight as to the poor financing that our school system and our children face. Working in an ancillary field, part of what I have to do is raise money and find money for everything from infrastructure to school supplies. I do like homegrown charters. I find them successful, and there's more dedication to our community, such as Impact charter in Baker, and J.K. Haynes, which now has transitioned to East Baton Rouge Parish school system.
Thank you, Ms. Banks. Right on time. Our next question, still dealing with the topic of education. How do you suggest we manage or mitigate the impact of the loss of funding and resources in the public school system? Again, the question is, how do you suggest we manage or mitigate the impact of the loss of funding and resources in the public school system?
The basic problem with the loss of funding in the public school system is the encroachment of charter schools. And so what happens is, for every kid that leaves the public school and goes to the charter school, the dollars follow. And so it's not until November, I think, the end of November, when the count comes in, that that dollar might come back if that kid is kicked out of the charter school. So what happens is, they end up leaving the public school system, they go to the charter school in September, enroll, and it's almost not until a year when that dollar falls back after they kick this bad kid out of the charter schools. So the bottom line, the dollar follows the kid. That's the first thing. The other part is each parish, is responsible for its own school system.
Thank you, Representative Carpenter. Mr. Lemoyne?
Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. How do you suggest we manage or mitigate the impact of the loss of funding and resources in the public school system?
So to me, loss of funding can be resolved with what? Bringing in and attracting more businesses, more property tax, more sales tax, more income tax for people. If we can attract more businesses to come, then there's more money for education. Which comes first, though, education or the businesses? We need the employees, though, that can work for these companies, which I feel like we have that. But we should then be attracting more businesses. Again, we're 49th out of 50. It's time that we improve. We need to attract more businesses and bring in more money to address these needs.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. Ms. Banks?
Well, it goes back to a systemic issue of inequitable funding. What we find oftentimes, even whether externally within our school system or, externally within the federal and the state, or internally within each district, that the financing that goes to each one of those, the different schools are inequitable. There is not a systemic way where a student from K through 12 is able to move from one area to another, or to one school to another, where there is equitable funding. The other thing has to do with priority taxes. Just as Mr. Lamont said, Zachary has a 4% property tax and 4 bonds. So of course they are really putting money where it needs to be as it relates to education. And I just say, in with ITEP is also hurting our school system.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, let me put a hand on it, Councilwoman Banks. I apologize. So for context, our next question is dealing with nutrition in children. In Louisiana, 1 in 5 children face hunger. When children are hungry, they cannot focus in school, experience greater health issues, and have a greater likelihood of behavioral and social issues. Research shows that food assistance programs like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, and the Women, Infants, and Children Program, also known as WIC, reduce poverty and food insecurity, leading to improved health and economic outcomes, particularly for children. So the question is, what meaningful policy solutions will you propose to make it easier for families to access nutritious food? Again, what meaningful policy solutions will you propose to make it easier for families to access nutritious food? And I think we'll go out of order. We'll start with Mr. Lemoyne.
Thank you very much. I look around the room and I see many people. Sorry if that was loud. I'm seeing many smartphones in the audience. We can utilize technology to address these issues, Amazon has grocery stores now that address theft, that address delivery systems, all these things, and its SNAP benefits can be used for the memberships. That can then get you access directly on your phone to whatever order you want to place, then it gets delivered directly to your home. So it's a technology issue that we can utilize. I would love to incentivize businesses to come into this area, in particular in Scotlandville. As you drive around, you don't see many grocery stores available to pop in and grab something. To me, that's a huge issue. Let's address that. Let's give some incentives to businesses, to Rouse's, to Walmart's, to whatnot, to come and open. But my first answer would be technology, and let's just use what's coming down the pipe. Thank you.
Councilwoman Banks.
It is absolutely true that our children are not only hungry, but they are, for the most part, sleep deprived. Seeing this every day in the school system, the children that parents are getting SNAP or WIC, often they are using, that benefit to subsidize paying bills, the water bill, the rent, the gas bill. So our kids are hungry. Personally, I have an open door snacks and chips and everything in my office, but I understand that it would not be the setting for all students. So I believe that every school, part of their program should have a food pantry. The food pantry may not be open during the breakfast, which is already something that all children have access, and lunch, but they can get something on their way home. So I think that if we would have that setting in all schools, it would make an incredible difference for our children.
Thank you, Councilwoman Banks. Representative Carpenter.
Would you repeat the question?
Yes. What meaningful policy solutions will you propose to make it easier for families to access nutritious food?
All right. First of all, food nutrition and the need to have a good diet starts with parental training. Oftentimes, our parents do not understand the importance of good nutrition with their kids as it relates to performance in schools. So there are policies in place already for the SNAP benefits, who's eligible, who's not, and the other forms of nutritional guidance that they get. However, we as a community need to step forward and put together programs that help to fill the gap. And so many legislators, particularly me as one, have funded programs in the community that provide weekend food supplies and after-school food supplies for kids.
Thank you, Representative Carpenter. So our next question moves into the topic of firearms. And so for context, the legislature has had at least one representative propose permitless carry of a firearm without a background check or permit for almost 6 years now. Louisiana is the only state in the Deep South to resist this bill and has either voted against or vetoed this bill each time it comes up. Over 80% of Louisianans also oppose this bill. So the question is, would you support permitless carry? Why or why not? I'll start with Councilwoman Banks.
I would not support permitless gun carrying because of the increase of gun violence, not only on the streets of Baton Rouge or Louisiana, but also the country. We've learned so much as it relates to right to bear arms, where because of the criminal system is not going to be fair depending on who has the gun. So we do need to keep in place so that we can have a tracking of who is applying for licensing, who's carrying a gun. Also, whenever there's a crime, that way we'll also have some kind of way to know where the gun originated. And so I just truly believe in having that kind of accountability in place where we know who's purchasing these guns and they have a permit.
Thank you, Councilwoman Banks. Moving to Representative Carpenter. Again, the question is, would you support permitless carry? Why or why not?
I do not support gun carry, period. Actually, background checks are not working, obviously, because people get guns. But then a lot of people in this state get guns that have not gone through a background check. So just look at the number of shootings that we've had just lately in the school system. These are kids. So where do you think they got the guns from? Somewhere. Either they got them off the street or they got them from their homes. But we need to get control with it because it's out of control and it's going to get worse if we don't do something about it. So I do not support, we're an open carry state, I do not support it at all.
Thank you, Representative Carpenter. And Mr. Lemoyne, again, the question is, would you support permitless carry? Why or why not?
100% absolutely. We will pass constitutional carry. It is the right of every citizen to be able to protect themselves. This country was built on the Second Amendment. It's up to an individual to be able to protect themselves anywhere at any time. We should not have to depend on police to show up after the fact to take care of things. It's our right to be able to do this. As Representative Carpenter said, you can open carry all you want, but where in the Second Amendment does it say I need to go and pay a tax to be able to carry a firearm? Criminals don't care about that. They're gonna hide the guns regardless. They don't abide by the laws. So let's let people protect themselves. Let's let a woman that's working late walk into her car to have a gun in her purse to protect themselves. 100% constitutional carry is going to be passed. It'll happen.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. So moving into our next topic, again, we're on climate crisis and the environment. So it reads, Louisiana, like the rest of the world, experienced the hottest July and August on record. Sea levels are actively rising, and it is becoming harder to live in a climate-vulnerable community like in southeast Louisiana. Keeping in mind the governor's creation of the Climate Initiatives Task Force and federal environmental packages that have funding for solar energy, energy efficiency, and more, what would be a first step the legislature could take that you would support in addressing the climate crisis? Again, the question is, what would be a first step the legislature could take that you would support in addressing the climate crisis? And we'll go back to Representative Carpenter start first.
Well, Louisiana is faced with some interesting situations that we've not been faced before, like wildfires. We've really not had a lot of those. And so we need to look at how we start these things to start with. That impacts the climate. The other thing is the erosion from off this campus, as was mentioned in the previous discussion. It is serious. And so the erosion is really pushing away buildings that are about to fall into the Mississippi River. What's causing it? We need to have commissions that address this concern. The other thing is put more money into the coastal erosion that we're having to deal with now, along with the possibility of adding windfall energy. That is another issue that we are faced with that many communities just have to get used to. And so apparently that is not being displayed as it should be, but we need to look at some alternative measures.
Thank you, Representative
to
Carpenter.
deal with it.
Thank you. Mr. Lemoyne, again, the question is, what would be a first step the legislature could take that you would support in addressing the climate crisis?
So carbon capture has been something that you may have recently heard about in the news. That's going to be where we're going to capture the emissions coming out of these plants, and they're going to inject it back into the soil. I can't tell you at what depth, but it's really, really deep. So that's going to be one thing that could possibly do that. Climate change, though, the Earth is however many millions of years old, and we're looking at the past 100. Sure, it's been hot, but we only have a little bit of data to really truly look at this. The carbon capture is very interesting, though, and so that'll be the first piece that they'll be able to continue on and to do that, to address the emissions issues.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. And Councilwoman Banks, again, the question is, what would be a first step the legislature could take that you would support in addressing the climate crisis?
So when I think of the climate crisis, I'm more concerned and closer to home with environmental injustice. So for me, as a legislator, my issues would be with things that I've dealt with locally, and one is that there will be a 10-year downsize of Ronaldson Field, where persons outside of East Baton Rouge Parish would no longer be able to dump there, which is causing wildfires in the community as well as contamination. I would also deal with, and I was able to make sure that East Baton Rouge Parish stopped dumping in Ronaldson Field. I would also deal with 100% financing through the Department of Energy on a federal level for any home that needs energy efficient windows, any appliances, whatever. And the second would be to finance the Corps of Engineering to do a total plan for erosion along the Mississippi.
Okay, for our final question before we move into questions with the audience. So this is on the topic of reproductive rights. And for context, I have one sentence for you. The topic of abortion is one of the most divisive issues facing current day politics. And so the question is, what is your position on abortion? Is it to be regulated by lawmakers, or should birthing people have the right to decide on their bodies? And I'll let the panelists decide who would like to go first. And
I'll go first.
Sure.
And my answer is simple and clear. I think it is a woman's right to make the decision as to what she needs to do with her body, with her family, and in her house. Simple and plain.
Thank you, Representative Carpenter. Mr. Lemoyne.
In my early 20s, before I was married, I had one thought about abortion, like, oh, that's great. Yeah, if you were to have an accident and whatnot, abortion is great. Then I got married and I had children, and when you first hold that child for the first time, it's like, how would anybody want to terminate that? But that's just my opinion on it. In my opinion, and a lawmaker's opinion, and law has no bearing on what a person decides what they need to do. That's where government needs to stay out of people's lives. It's a personal issue and a personal choice. Myself as a man, I have no business telling anyone that I'm not in a relationship with what to do with their body and that choice. So that government needs to stay out of that role of abortion. That's a woman's choice, and that's a very difficult one to have to deal with, and I don't wish that on anyone. But again, it's up to that person, that's the woman that's pregnant, to deal with that.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. Councilwoman Banks.
Yes, I believe that women should have a right over all aspects of their body and choosing what is in their best interest. However, the focus is not just women. I deal with students every day that find themselves in situations of pregnancy, not because of consensual sex, but a lot of times sexual abuse as a way of life. And they have not gotten the memo, if you will, that abortion does not exist in Louisiana. And so I believe that there needs to be a tremendous amount of funding towards education of the bill as it relates to abortion. I think that we need to provide more women money to help them in those times, because more and more women do not have the choice. Again, they don't know that it exists, they don't have the financing, they don't have the means to travel. So I believe that we're leaving women and children in harm's way by, but whether we restrict or not, by not educating them and having them making decisions based on what they have means to.
Thank you, Councilwoman Banks. And now we will move into questions from the audience. So do any of our audience members have questions for the candidates?
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of questions. Oh, yeah. I live in District 63. Yeah. And there's been some good done. But I'm totally disappointed in what has been done in terms of, we talk about kids being home. Well, my dad and my mother worked in the garden, and they made sure we had the proper food to eat because they farmed the land. We got land in these communities, Baker, Jack, and Wheeler, that just out there. Nobody's coming putting, very few people coming putting money to raise the proper food that these kids need from the ground. Then you got pollution. And it's a question of, and I'm going to hold my question right in my district. We need to put together a committee to work with that committee to be the eyes and ears of your district. This gentleman here spoke about that. If you don't have a committee that's the eyes and ears of your community, there's going to be a lot of things that's absolutely necessary that you will not know because you can't be at all places all the time. So I'm suggesting, I'm going to stop. I'm suggesting, number one, it's not a question now for some of y'all, what you're going to do, is but what you have done. Go look at some of them records, and you will be disappointed in how long you've been in office and haven't done a doggone thing.
So thank you so much for your comments. And so what I heard you mention in the beginning was going back to our question on nutrition and the use of land that is not being used so that that land could then be utilized in order to increase and maybe, I guess, educate children, gardening, things like that, and feed them, giving them a hand in creating their own food. And so I guess a question would be, maybe would any of the candidates support using or advocating for something that maybe children could, or, you know, create an, I don't know.
Let me address part of what you know.
I ran before already.
I'm the representative in this district, so I can speak to this. First of all, after each legislative session, we hold town hall meetings in every library in this district, starting with Scotlandville Library, the Baker Library, and the Zachary Library. I see many of you there, but I've not seen Mr. McCassell at any of them. And they've been widely publicized. We do robocalls. We do every means of communication to have people come out. And so that happens all the time. The other thing is that we're right on Southern University's campus, which is a land-grant institution. And they produce foods that they put for sale back in the Ag Center when the foods are available. I like mustard greens. You can't grow them year round, not in this environment because it's too hot. So you have to wait for the climate to do it, to grow it and get it to people. The final thing is that there are urban gardens, that they call it. Urban gardens is really rural, that we put food seeds there and it grows. All you need to do is call and ask.
Thank you, Representative
Sorry,
Carpenter.
I've cut off, but I can say more about it.
Are there any other panelists, candidates who would like to address this issue?
I do. I think you raise a great point, and you've got years of wisdom behind you that's talking about it. We've become a society of convenience. Let's run here for dinner, pick up something through a drive-through, and run home and eat. I'm a victim, or I use that as well. I don't feel like doing these things. And so it's enjoyable to grow a garden. I think when you get to a certain age in your life, you start doing these things, and it's fun and it's enjoyable. I can speak for sure that the Zachary school systems do have gardens. They teach the children about that. I would imagine the other school systems here in the area do as well. Along with the gardens that you were speaking of, hunting would help children as well. And that's twofold. We were speaking about gun violence earlier with District 62. My son has killed deer, cleaned the animals, and seen what a bullet can do to an animal. And so that puts in his head what a gun can do to another person. If we can get kids going back to hunting, doing these things in gardens and growing their own food, if heaven forbid something happens when we don't have any grocery stores available to us, we can then survive again. So it's just about getting the kids back involved in these things and making fun and enjoying those things. Somebody's got a beautiful garden on Highway 19 I look at every year across from the Exxon plant. I don't know who owns that, but I notice that thing every year. They're always growing something. Yeah, is it y'all?
Louis Ali. It's Louis Ali. It's across the street.
Okay, but I always do enjoy seeing that garden and watching it. It's pretty cool. So if we could bring into gardens into more of the areas, maybe a co-op spot for people that maybe rent apartments and all that can have that opportunity to do that, that'd be really cool. And sorry for going over.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. Councilwoman Banks.
Yes, I understand what Mr. McAllister is talking about, going up on Progress Road. The front part was a garden and the back part was a field. And those were what I thought was fun, and now I understand that it's work. Since being a council member, one of the things that have really been very much part of my community is my relationship with the Baton Rouge Food Bank. So every Wednesday, we have where we give fresh fruits and vegetables to all of our constituents. I have a tremendous relationship with Southern University Agriculture Center, where our seniors in Scotlandville, Baker, and Zachary have an opportunity to go to different seminars that they hold. We also have a relationship where it actually started in Scotlandville with Together Baton Rouge, where fresh fruits and vegetables were given. It is absolutely a fact that you cannot do this work in silo. So for that reason, of course, I have the Scotlandville Food Access to bring up grocery store, and also my relationship with USDA. Usually we're the first ones on the list to get all kinds of free things for our community. In closing, just one of those things when there was a crisis on baby formula, we were getting calls where we were able to supply just an influx of formula for kids due to those relationships. So it's out there, and I'll tell Louis Ali that you admire his garden.
I do admire it.
Okay.
Okay, so that concludes our time for today. Let's give our candidates for District 63 a big round of applause. And so I'll just take a matter of personal privilege and just fall on the sword myself, because I did not do this with District 62. So if candidates will literally take 15 seconds, and I'll invite back up candidates from District 62, 15 seconds to give a closing of why people should vote for you. 15 seconds. Timer's going now. Who'd like to start? Let's bring up candidates for District 62 first. Okay, do I have my timekeeper ready?
Yeah, picture time.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Bangel, District 62, and go in order as they are standing. 15 seconds of why constituents in District 62 should vote for you.
Okay, thank you again. I think people in District 2 should vote for someone who's going to be prepared, ready to go to work, and is knowledgeable of the issues, someone who knows how to work across the aisles, who knows how to develop relationships, who also understand the issues that are facing the community. Again, I respect and make sure that everyone has a voice, make sure that I advocate on behalf of them, making sure that all their needs are met, and making sure that I don't say things that I cannot do.
Time. Thank you, Thank you, Representative Adams.
Yes, Representative Adams, vote for me because I'm here for you. I want to work for you, and I don't mind working for you. We're applying for this job. Applying for this job means I'm here asking you to let me work my butt off for you, and I will be there for you. I'm here, today's newspaper, I'm here to get Southern University this $1.1 billion that the state owes Southern University. I'm here to get it for them. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Representative Adams. Mr. Lannis.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you keep voting the way you always have, you'll keep getting what you always got, which is nothing. People are going to come inside of this room and they're going to give you all types of promises. I don't have any promises for you. I have a guarantee. I will always have your ear. I will always fight for you. I will always be your voice. I'm the only candidate in this race that has been endorsed by U.S. Representative Troy Carter. Only candidate in this race that has been endorsed by State Representative Miss Vanessa Caston LaFleur.
Thank you,
only
Mr.
representative that has been endorsed by State Representative Jason Hughes. Darius Landis, number 55 on your ballot. I will be your voice. I will be your fighter.
And you can pass the mic to Councilwoman Banks, and we'll go here. 15 seconds.
I knew I was going to come behind. I'm asking for your vote because I believe in service. I have a track record of success as a councilwoman for District 2. I believe that you should serve as though you are your own constituents. I believe that this part of the community of the district has been greatly overlooked as it relates to infrastructure funding, as it relates to housing funding.
Thank you, Councilwoman Banks.
And $1.2 million.
15 seconds, Mr. Lemoyne.
I know I'm different. I'm not a politician. I'm a business owner. I understand how to get things done. I have the same common goals as everyone, Republican, Democrat, black, white. All I want is to make everybody better and make our opportunities better. As your next representative, we're going to improve infrastructure, improve internet, and we're going to get rid of police qualified immunity. We're going to start holding the police accountable for all this brutality that's been happening, and that's what I'm going to do first day in office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. And Representative Carpenter.
I am seeking my third and final term because I stand on my record. The most important thing that you need to know, though, is that as a legislator, you have to be able to work with everyone. You don't come in at the top. You start at the bottom, you work your way up. You work the wishes of your district. Right now, I'm at top leadership. I serve my district. Look around at the Baton Rouge Airport. Look around at Southern University. Look around at all of the other areas in this district, and you will see improvement.
Thank you, Representative Carpenter. Let's give all of our candidates a round of applause. Running for office is no small feat, and I say that from having done this myself, and so this is certainly a noble job. And